Hey, it's the market sniper, the reset sniper and the crypto sniper on a Sunday cycle. Giving you an update on, well, I suppose the latest headlines. Do ourselves a little offside ride and talk to you about what's been said. Someone who seems to be getting a lot of airplay right now is Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon of Fed Bank, which actually is the wrong way around because JP Morgan Bank actually owns large parts of the Fed. So the Fed, a private institution that has been given governmental control and right to control monetary policy and to make statements like it is a governmental organization, is actually owned by the big banks, of which JP Morgan is one of the most dominant, and is essentially Rothschild Bank. They found when JP Morgan himself, the man for which the bank was actually named after, him of the Great Depression, you know, showing confidence, going out and buying the markets in the teeth of the Great Depression, actually owned an incredibly small single-digit minority stake in his bank. And that it all went back to the legacy families of London and Europe, of which the Rothschild is the primary one. Anyway, back to what Jamie had to say. Jamie's become a big old truther about the financial states of play. Much like Elon and Trump during the election run-in against the Democrats. Yep. They're dropping truth bombs all of a sudden. It's almost like the second coming of QAnon, that psyop. Whoopee, we are filming the sky. A major event based in the debt markets. He's become a truther about the financial state of affairs. Suddenly. We refer to this Damascus outburst of absolute honesty as the 2 minutes to midnight establishing of Alibi. I say 2 minutes to midnight because they never like to give you the truth. And then suddenly, when things are inevitably going to happen very quickly and violently, they need to at least be on record somewhere as having said, but hey, we did warn you. You know, it's kind of like you're a passenger on the bus. You're not the driver of the bus. The bus driver is a psychopath and is planning on driving everyone off the bridge and ensuring everybody's death. And just before he does that, when you're traveling at 60 k's per hour, heading onto the bridge, he says, guys, I've been having suicidal thoughts and I ain't feeling well and this is a terrible old world. There, I gone and told you. As if there's much we can do about that. You know, good old Francis, for example, who's talking right now, on his mountain bike, on a desert island riding over some stones, you know, put on my Batman suit and whoop right over there and knock things into shape. Thanks, Jamie. You gave us the heads up. I can fix this. You know? How many trillions over in debt? Never mind. Let me just get my black Amex out. We can fix that in a jiff. You know? What actually are we supposed to do about something we knew already that was certainly coming and is now inevitable and is even more inevitable for the fact that the people that brought it on, have orchestrated all of this, are now at the 2 minutes to midnight point telling everybody it's going to happen so that they can say, we did tell you. You know, we did tell you. But they've kept quiet and been party to the largesse, the money. What in actual fact I think Jamie is telling us and I feel this will certainly come to bear. So what anybody is supposed to do with that information that they've suspected all along and seen is coming? Well, there is some information in it. So let's stop and take a moment and just encapsulate what has been imparted here. Well, the fact that he's saying it now tells you it's 2 minutes to midnight. The truth of that matter is we've known this for a long, long time. But timing is a problem. Because they printed and pretend, they cheated, they've got Britain. Now the second largest. China's got less treasuries than the UK now. Britain, the second largest nation. Keir Starmer paying his rent. Maybe his rent boy as well. Has chosen to make UK into the toxic bank along with Japan, that controlled proxy of the United States. See the Professor Werner video. So we already know that certain Western nations are going to be sacrificed along with America. In fact, the whole West is going to have a horrific crackdown. But in terms of supporting the Ponzi until it's time to let go, the UK, Belgium, Cayman Islands, Japan, the proxies of the existing JP Morgan world order that Jamie is now warning you about, the fact that he's saying it now so vociferously, and he is saying it vociferously, one outright statements, is the element of timing. Because providing he's said it, he's warned you. The fact that none of us can do anything about changing this trajectory is immaterial. We're going downhill like this one, and it's going to come at you hard and fast, just like this one. And unlike the brakes I have on here, which have taken some of the sting out of the acceleration, there's a no brakes collapse at the bottom of the hill waiting for you. And with that understood, he's also warning you. It's kind of windy today, sorry for that. He's also warning that he and his bank are positioned to profit from it. So let's get this straight. I tell you I'm going to burn your house down once I've already lit the fire and the accelerants are already full burn. I've already insured your house with me as the recipient of any gain therein 5 times over. So I'm getting rich out of trading and actually creating a situation that made me rich on the upside and is now going to make me rich on the downside. The real warning here from Dimon is how much you're going to hate him when you find out what a record amount of profits JP Morgan is going to make and their ilk out of the collapse shorting, like Stanley Druckenmiller and Paul Tudor Jones, a series of events that they largely manifested. So it is me as arsonist being paid to burn your house down, setting it alight, insuring it in my name for 5 times its value, and putting the cost of that onto insurance premiums for everybody else, as I get paid out in extreme largesse for an event I created and was paid to do. So I earn on the in, I got the back door sell as well, I earn on the out, and hey, you can't hate on me for seeing it and just playing the ball as it was in front of me. I did warn you. You know, I'll go around, somebody's house is going to burn down. I got a feeling that there's an arsonist out there. Somebody's going to get a burnt house to the ground. You've got to decide the morality of these serpents and how they should be treated. And they should be tarred and feathered, because my prediction right here, right now, is that the JP Morgan trading desk and many others like it are incredibly well positioned to profit out of this collapse. In the same way as subprime, only better. This time they're not going to consume their own product. They're going to be selling short their own assets. Goldman Sachs, of course, did do that. But they were stupid enough in other departments to be buying it in without recognizing it. But they got made whole to par by AIG. All of them did. An absolute scam. So that's what's going down. Not only is it coming and it's about to happen, we're about to make a lot of money out of it because we're telling you what our house view is. The goddamn CEO has stood up and told you. And he's told you just before, because, you know, trades have carry costs. You can't just sit short forever. You need to get the timing right. And that's the key thing about this message. It's a warning that it's nearly here. It's the 2 minutes to midnight bit. For everybody, and I get this in the comments a lot. Oh, you've been doing this doomer talk for so long. You know, if I'd listened to you, I'd have missed the stock market bull and all of this. No, first of all, when we doomer talked about CV19, you got CV19 and you got the crash. Since CV19, which had a V-shaped recovery thanks to 7 trillion being printed, we told you that the bond market was now on borrowed time. In 2020, we were the first to say and trade TLT short, which we did. We bought the puts, we've shown the proof, and we made a lot of profits with its initial breakdown. And since then, it's been at a holding pen. And now we've had the dollar take some of the loss. And TLT, which is an ETF of long-dated US debt, is been languishing after making its head and shoulders downside target for a while. It's about to go lower. You're going to have bond-based issues. And tell us why not. We predicted when the UK had their microcosm pension crisis that the same moment would come for the US. That's already happened. Now, like Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss, Trump has done a stimulus budget. Very similar to Kwarteng. No real cuts now, all the cuts to come later. And in the meantime, stimulus and tax cuts. You know, spending. 1 trillion in spending on the military industrial complex. How about that? Fascinating. Who'd have thunk it? More weapons, please. Oh, and we must mention our friend Jamie Dimon says, don't buy Bitcoin, buy guns and bullets and rare earth minerals. Well, America does have a problem. China has captured the rare earth minerals market immensely, quietly going about securing monopolies, much less fuss than those that are American maximalists and can't see and continue to say, hey, we're still the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. My least favorite saying, or the fittest horse in the glue factory. Well, no. Here's the thing for all the cleanest shirt guys. Where is all the credit default swaps being bought? On which market? Not the Chinese market, not the Swiss debt market, not the Singapore debt market, not even European nations. There's been a record move and spike in CDS demand on the US debt market. That's right, it's the American debt failure we're talking about. Don't let the American maximalists, and let's be clear, I love the Americans, I love the American people. There are analysts that are in denial that continue to assert America is still the strongest position, this. Those comments are directed at them and they know who they are. Insurance for fire doesn't sell in countries where there's no fire risk. It does, however, sell in America right now. So that tells you, and by the way, after the first 50% in debt collapse that occurred on the TLT and the rest of the bond market, the long end of the bond market, what happened? The dollar plummeted from 110 on the Dixie to 99. That's not measured against gold. That's 52% the euro. Little bit of British pound, Swedish krona, Japanese yen, and a sprinkling of Swiss franc. Against another failed fiat, basically, that has also a debt problem, but not as acute one right now, and is not facing the rates that America faces. And Trump has done a spend now, pay later budget. Now, in the smaller nation of Britain, that wasn't tolerated, and Truss and Kwarteng faced a rejection on both the pound and the UK bond market that saw them thrown out, and a new budget of tax. We need the income. That's part and parcel of the socialist Starmer government that took over, which is essentially a tax and tax more. They're all about making the pip squeak with the taxes. These are all socialism to communism sellouts, low grade, low culture, anti-human, captured sellouts that want to destroy your country and submit you into a totalitarian state of surveillance finance, and will aim to do the job as willingly, like sniveling little wenches trying to cuddle up to their totalitarian masters. That's where you're at in the United Kingdom. Trump hasn't been thrown out, nor has his finance minister. In fact, his defense minister is in Asia telling Asians China is the great threat and they should all be militarizing up for a war. Plus his Pentagon officials and defense ministers are saying time to get ready for the big war. Who's rushing to war? China doesn't need to rush. It's America. Trying to get Europe to spend more on defense. Why? Because they can't justify the spend anymore in NATO. That's where we're at, guys. They can't justify that spend anymore. And it's time they backed off out of that. But they've always still got money for Israel. Aid for Israel, secured by AIPAC and ADL. I stand with Israel, I stand with Israel. All of them to a T stand with Israel. Otherwise, you don't get funding to get into power. Israel's a bit disappointed that America's distracted by a war that it needs to pursue with China when they want to flatten Iran. They'd rather have American bodies dying for that one. So they keep talking about doing it all on their own, but not doing very much. Still hoping they can get American meat for the grinder. There's been other news, apart from Dimon establishing his alibi, 2 minutes to midnight, which is a timing indicator of the great collapse. All your money in banks are at risk. Turn it into gold ounces now. You can always turn it back into dollars, trust me, later. Apart from that, there was some histrionics about Glenn Grunewald. This is the populist leftist thing that goes like this. It doesn't matter at all what I do in my private life if it's consenting adults. Well, you know, some things do matter, actually. If you're if you're going to wear a skirt and lick a black man's toes and have him call you bitch and slave, you're kind of showing us that in terms of your mental needs, you're in the pervert camp, socially. Do I feel the need to get into everybody's bedroom and whatever their flex is? No. Do I support privacy in general? Yes. But if you want to put that kind of activity on film, you're playing a very dangerous game, and how sorry should I feel for you? So you are showing me that you're into a very bizarre, subversive, somewhat perverted, maybe an inter-race based dominance, chip on your shoulder, fawning, submissive weirdness that in truth I don't really understand and are not feelings that I typically have, and many of us like us. Why would you put that on camera? And isn't it always the modus operandi to abandon someone who is highlighting? And I support Grunewald and anybody else who is highlighting the Israel scourge that runs through American politics and the AIPAC ADL. So I can support that work, but I certainly have some reservations about supporting someone who also said, when Hunter Biden was being viewed, that the only thing that should be looked at is his China arms and, you know, the role of state, when in fact minors were involved. Alleging consent. How much does teenage to below teenage, infant, let's not say infant, children, child-based prostitution lead to consent? To what degree do 8-year-olds even consent to understand what is being done to them and the damage to their life that someone like Hunter Biden can be bringing both drugs, fueled orgies to bear? Anyway, it's not the typical topic of a Market Sniper channel. I'll leave that for reset discussions, but it's the other current theme. And sadly for Grunewald, recording such activities, I think, is a very poor act of judgment, and it does do his, oh, I'm just a normal gay guy who wants to be left alone privately, it does bring into perspective a little bit more about who he is privately. And I'm not that excited by it. But back to 2 minutes to midnight. We're taking ourselves to some fields and there's some honeybees and a lot of things going on here. For those of you wondering where it is sunny Cyprus. We're bashing some hills. Back to 2 minutes to midnight. It wouldn't shock me that Dimon and his pals have similar interesting off-market extramural activities, quite possibly on film captured by Mossad. But what I do want to remind everybody is that APAC and the ADL run a blackmail operation where they have footage of people in compromising positions. So essentially, you are paying tax to pay. They are insisting you pay tax and homage to them. They're the primary beneficiaries. That's where your money goes. And they love a good war, a good body harvest, because it brings in orphan children, the organ trade. That's right, organs as in lungs, livers, kidneys. They love a good war. Through Tel Aviv, the organ trade flourishes, the orphan trades, and of course the widows, who are then short of money, think they're going as au pairs and end up as slave prostitutes or selling a kidney or giving up a child. A lot of frustration, poverty and hardship in Ukraine. We saw an escalation in the war. Explosive devices were put on a bridge and awaited for a civilian train to kill citizens. That's a deliberate citizen target, and that is typical of a nation that wants an escalation. If you want to escalate a war, if you want to create hatred, one of the badly injured critical condition is a 6-month infant, which puts Zelensky very much like Netanyahu in the baby killer mold. This isn't soldiers, this isn't military bases, this isn't airports where fighter planes take off or bombers. This is civilian murder. It falls into Dresden, Nagasaki, Hiroshima. We're talking here about needless death directed at pure innocence. So we're going to get an escalation. Putin can't let that go. It will be seen as weakness. And they need a war. They need China either to attack Taiwan or to escalate with China. You had Lordy Macron, the one who's being slapped around by his husband in drag, telling China to keep North Koreans out of the war. Because North Korean soldiers are actually fighting with Russians against Ukrainians. It's quite a thing. In fact, I'm going to turn around. I'll do the beach drive another time. I'm running low on battery. I just realized I didn't charge up the bike before this one, and I'd been using it a bit. So yeah, it's in top gear. Pump, pump, pump. Is an e-bike. Don't feel too sorry for me. So we've got a number of hot war escalations going at the same time as Fed Bank CEO JP Morgan is telling you it's 2 minutes to midnight. You've got escalation, Russia, Ukraine. You've got the defense minister going into Southeast Asia and blagging about the great risk that is China. I don't want to give the impression I'm all love and light towards China. I don't like communism. End of story. I'm no fan of communism. But there's a lot of distraction going on, masking. Oh, what are you doing, mate? There's a lot of distraction going on to mask the way of the world right now. A lot of distraction. Americans' follies, the debt-based collapse, and needing a blowout war that has to be funded is the perfect way out of redrawing the map and reset kidology. And that, friends, is where we are. And don't ignore the message underlying it. The debt-based collapse is here.
Tired of profit wipeouts and blown accounts from following trade signal groups? Looking for a better way to trade? Why not be part of a principled, structured, and technically based community set inside a unique trading methodology? Enjoy a constructive learning environment while practically trading markets, supported by a bespoke platform run through browser or app, specifically designed to teach and engage you whilst learning and growing as the markets move. This is not a Telegram or Slack signal group. All trade ideas are based on a proprietary technical analysis process honed over decades, which is the HVF method, leading to trade ideas with fast-moving breakouts and tight stops, exact entries and exits, nuanced interim considerations, and ultimately strong rewards. Submissions are graded and scored by Francis for potential high-quality setups, and we provide bespoke tools to help get the job done properly and with precision. Over time, and with focused effort, you'll begin to look at charts, price action, and markets in a whole new light. Community updates every day by Francis and our 3 webinars a week provide a 360-degree approach, which are presented by our experienced team of trade leaders to spot potential trades. We're a community of self-actualized individuals, spanning the globe and active 24/7, 365. The premium community provides a warm, supportive, and cooperative place for people willing to listen, participate, contribute, and to learn. Transform your approach to trading now. Transform your life. Book an introductory call with us on the link below.